Upon entering the land of Canaan, Abram's first recorded stop was at Shechem, specifically near the Oak of Moreh. This location was significant not only because it was the first place where Abram settled in Canaan, but also because God appeared to him here in a profound way. Genesis 12, verse 7 describes the moment. Then the Lord appeared to Abram and said, "To your offspring I will give this land." So he built there an altar to the Lord, who had appeared to him. Here, God made his first direct promise to Abram in Canaan. God revealed that this very land, the land of Canaan, would belong to Abram's descendants. The promise must have seemed far-fetched to Abram at that time. He and Sarai had no children, and the land was already inhabited by the Canaanites, a strong and established people. Yet, despite the improbability of it, Abram believed God's words. In response to this monumental promise, Abram built an altar to the Lord. This altar symbolized Abram's acknowledgement of God's sovereignty and his trust in the promise that had just been made. Shechem became the first place where Abram publicly declared his faith in God, marking a moment of worship and thanksgiving. This promise was not only about physical land, it was the beginning of God's unfolding plan of redemption through Abram's descendants. Though Abram could not yet see it, this land would one day become the home of the people of Israel, a nation set apart for God's purposes. After his time in Shechem, Abram continued his journey southward, eventually arriving at the hill country east of Bethel. He pitched his tent with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. Here again, Abram built an altar and called upon the name of the Lord. In this place, Abram's building of another altar signified not just a moment of worship, but the establishment of a pattern in his life. Wherever Abram settled, he made it a priority to worship the Lord. The phrase, "called upon the name of the Lord," indicates that Abram publicly acknowledged God's presence and his dependence on him. It also shows Abram's obedience to continually seek God's guidance as he journeyed through the land. This constant act of building altars reveals Abram's commitment to honoring God in each new stage of his journey. Despite Abram's faithful obedience, his journey was not without its challenges. Soon after settling in Bethel, a severe famine struck the land of Canaan. This famine posed a serious threat to Abram's family and livestock, forcing him to make a difficult decision. Unable to sustain his household in Canaan, Abram chose to go down to Egypt, a land known for its fertile Nile region. While this move was practical, it led to an important test of Abram's faith. In Egypt, Abram faced fear and insecurity. Knowing that Sarai's beauty could attract unwanted attention, he feared that the Egyptians might kill him to take her. In response, Abram devised a plan. He told Sarai to say that she was his sister rather than his wife in order to protect his life. This plan backfired when Pharaoh himself took Sarai into his palace, believing she was unmarried. Though Abram was treated well because of Sarai, this deception put Sarai in a dangerous position, but God, in his mercy, intervened. He sent plagues upon Pharaoh's household, which revealed the truth about Sarai's marriage to Abram. Pharaoh, realizing the truth, confronted Abram and sent him away, returning Sarai and allowing Abram to leave Egypt unharmed, though deeply embarrassed. Despite Abram's failure in faith, God's protection over him and Sarai remained steadfast. Applications. Abram's crossing of the Euphrates symbolizes a clear break from his past, following God's calling despite uncertainty. This teaches us that responding to God's call may require leaving behind familiar and comfortable places, trusting fully in His guidance. Just as Abram's journey required crossing a physical boundary, our spiritual growth often involves crossing boundaries that challenge us to trust God more deeply. We are encouraged to step out in faith when God calls us to grow and mature in our spiritual walk. God's promise to Abram is a reminder that God remains faithful even when the path forward isn't visible. As Abram left his homeland, he relied on God's assurance that He would provide, which can inspire us to trust that God's promises will be fulfilled in His time. Crossing the river represents leaving behind old patterns and attachments. Just as Abram left behind his old life, we are called to leave behind anything that hinders our relationship with God and focus on His direction. Abram's journey marks the beginning of his transformation into the father of nations. This reminds us that each journey in faith is part of God's greater plan to shape us for His purposes, often requiring sacrifice, endurance, and reliance on His promises.